Hi everyone, my name is Daniel and in this video I'm gonna explain you this brand new camera here from DJI. That's the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. We're gonna have a closer look at this camera here. I will show you how to connect it to your phone. I will show you how to change the frame rate, the bit rate, how to take a photo, how to take a series of shots. I will show you the accessories I use. And if you do have any further questions at the end of this video, please make sure to leave a comment below. Give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe. And now let's get started. By the way, if you would like to support my channel, you can buy the camera, the accessories I used, the microphone, using the link provided in the video description below. To turn on the camera, push that button for 2 seconds. And if you want to turn off the camera, push that button again. If you turn on the camera for the first time, you will need to select the language. And then secondly, it shows you a QR code for registering the camera. So you need to download the free DJI Mimo app. Once that is downloaded, you can scan the QR code, you can register the camera, you can skip that also for 5 times, but DJI wants you to register the camera with your free DJI account. So the first thing we're gonna do is to connect this camera to our phone. In this case, I'm using an iPhone 15 Pro Max. Download the free DJI Mimo app, which looks like this at the moment. Make sure to turn on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And why to connect it to your phone? First of all, DJI wants you to register the camera after using it for 5 times. Secondly, we can update the firmware using this app and we can transfer the files onto our phone. Another important point that I would say you would probably use quite often is to share the files with your friends or upload them somewhere else. You can edit all the files using your camera, and that's one good reason to download the app. So if you're connecting this camera for the first time, make sure you turn on Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, turn on your camera, and after you've done so, your phone should find the camera immediately. It shows something like a pin that you have to confirm on your camera, and then you're ready to go. So it can't be more simple than that. Once we started the app, we're in album, so it shows me all the files I took already using this camera. You can only view photos, videos, or favorites. I can delete multiple photos and videos at once. I can mark them as my favorite or download them onto my phone. If I want to delete them, they will be deleted now from the memory card which is inside the camera. That's for instance a video I used to test the tracking feature. The camera is stationary, but it looks like that someone is holding the camera. No, that's the tracking feature. If I tap on such a video, for instance, I can pause it, I can delete it, I can mark it, I can trim it. I can use the filters for a video. So if you're not really into editing videos at home on a computer, you can do that straight out of the app. You can adjust the settings like contrast, brightness, white balance, and so on. You can crop into the video, you can set a different speed for that video. And obviously, once you have downloaded the file, you can share that with your friends straight away using all social media platforms. After a nice holiday, you're sitting in the aircraft and you think, well, I could start already editing the videos. You can use this editor here by DJI. You can use a lot of templates here for videos and photos and download them onto your phone. And once you landed, you can share your experience with your friends. And if I tap on this icon right here, we start with the live preview of the camera. So usually the camera starts in video mode. To start a video, tap on this small icon right here, and then on top you can see that there's a time running. To stop that video, push on this icon once again, and the camera is saving that video onto the micro SD card. On top right you can see the remaining battery. RS stands for rock steady, that's the internal image stabilizer. And on the top right, we can see the remaining time we're able to record using the remaining memory of the camera. This time will change anytime you adjust the frame rate and the resolution. If I record in 4K 120, as you can see, it dropped by more than an hour. The reason why you don't see anything at the moment is because I'm exposing manually and I don't use the appropriate settings here for the conditions. So I can go to auto and then you should see something. And to be honest, I would keep it in audio unless you want to do something specific, let's say using an ND filter, capture some motion, shooting some sport videos, then I would shoot in manual mode. To change the resolution and the frame rate, you can do that on this side here. So in 1080p, the camera allows you to take up to 240 frames per second. And as you can see, with these kind of settings, I have a remaining recording time of 1 hour and 21 minutes. If I record my video on 2.7K with 120 frames per second, it's 126. And if I use a lower frame rate, let's say 24 frames per second, it's almost 2.5 hours. I can take 4K, and I usually take my videos in 4K 25. And if you're aiming for a better low light performance, use a lower frame rate. If you want to capture some action, make sure you have enough ambient light available, and then you should go for a higher frame rate. And in this case, you can use up to 120 frames per second. But usually I record my videos in 4K 25 or 50, and if you live in the States, it's probably going to be 4K 30 or 4K 60. The more frames you use, the more fluent your video will look like. If I tap on these 3 dots right here, I have enabled the Pro mode, which allows me at the end to set, for instance, my color mode to 10-bit, which gives you a better video quality. I have access to the histogram, timecode, color mode, and if you want to do some color grading at the end on your computer, you need to shoot in D-Log. So here's the image stabilizer. It says off, Rocksteady Plus, and horizon balancing. I will show you some examples here in this video how it looks like. And the image stabilizer is pretty amazing. I've been using that for running in the forest, and as you can see, it looks quite stunning. So a really good camera if you want to capture some action. Here you can change the field of view. It says ultra wide, wide, or standard. So ultra wide gives you that ultra wide field of view, which looks like kind of a fish eye. And if you want to capture a normal scene, let's say you sit at home and you want to explain something to someone, then I would probably go for either wide or set it to standard. Loop recording, something I would personally use if I want to do something with sports. So let's say I want to do a stunt, but I'm not sure if I can make that stunt, but I don't want to waste the memory of the micro SD card. So I don't need to record for an hour. I can set it, for instance, to 5 minutes, and then the camera continues to record in a loop for 5 minutes. So the video won't be longer than 5 minutes. Here's the zoom, and that's about it. We're now in photo mode. To take a photo, simply push that button. The camera writes that photo onto the micro SD card. Here you get the Pro mode. Here you can set the field of view. It says wide or standard. You can enable a grid, which you can see right now. You can see those lines. You can do manual white balance, overexpose alert. And if you want to do some editing at home later on your images, maybe with all the nice presets I created for you, which you can find in a link in the video description below, I would suggest you shoot JPEG plus RAW. It gives you more dynamic for your images, and it allows you to do more editing on your image instead of just using JPEG. And as I said, you can find the presets I used to edit all the photos in a link provided in the video description below. If I tap on this icon right here, you can set a timer, 0.5 seconds or up to 10 seconds. If you want to be on the same photo, you can place the camera somewhere, set a timer of 10 seconds, and the camera will capture a nice photo of you. And if you want to take a series of shots, that's this icon right here. So the maximum you can do is taking 9 photos in 3 seconds. Make sure to get a fast writing memory card, otherwise it's buffering and buffering and buffering, and you cannot do something else with the camera until this process has stopped. So make sure to get a fast writing memory card. Here you can set the frame. There is L stands for large, M stands for medium. So that is the lower resolution, that is the higher resolution. If I change that now to 16:9, let's say in M, watch this right now. At the moment we can take 615 photos in JPEG plus RAW and now 1893 photos. And if I use the normal frame for a photo, which is 4:3, it's 458 in large. Of course, you can do a manual exposure or leave it in auto. If you want to go live, there is the button you need to push. As you can see, you can go live on Facebook, YouTube, or set up your own account on all the other platforms, and then you can stream with 720 frames per second. Unfortunately, it's only 720p. I thought it was more, but I checked it out already, the settings, and it only gives me 720p. Then there's a slow motion feature, which I like a lot. So down here you have kind of the same settings. I put that also to normal 10-bit in order to get a better video quality, just to show you that. And you can change the field of view to wide or standard. And here is the important part we have a look at. It's 1080p 4x and 8x, so it will decelerate the video speed anytime you select 4 or 8x, but it won't record now with audio. You have 2.7K, so that's always the resolution, and you can decelerate your video 4 times, and in 4K it's also 4 times. In this case, I would also aim for the better resolution, so 4K 4x is sufficient for most of the things I do. The difference between a 4K video with 120 frames per second is that you can record it with audio and you can decelerate the video later on if you like to, and you can mute the audio. And a small tip for you, the more frames per second you use, the more ambient light is required in order to get a good looking video. Otherwise it's super grainy and it doesn't make fun to watch the files later on. You have also manual exposure and auto. Then there is time-lapse, one of the features I like a lot on all these action cameras out there. Different point that I want to highlight, format. It says video. If you just want to take a nice looking time-lapse video, leave it in video. If you want to edit the individual frames, either use JPEG plus video or use RAW plus video. Then you can set the resolution. In this case, I would go for 4K, either 25 or 30 frames per second, and they won't change. Doesn't matter if I take 1080p, you can either record with 25 or 30 frames per second. In this case, I would definitely go for the higher resolution. Here you can set a manual exposure for that video, and the important thing about the time-lapse is set up here, because here you can choose the interval. I would leave the duration to infinity for a specific reason, because once you place your camera somewhere, let's say in front of a sunset or sunrise, and you set a duration maybe 10 minutes or 20 minutes and the sunrise or the sunset is not over yet, you have to record again either on the next day, or you have to take a second video because the video stopped in between. And if you leave it in infinity, you can say stop anytime. And down here is the interval, and that's possible with up to 1 hour of interval. So the camera only takes 1 photo per hour and it merges them together. Let's say I record myself in 4K 25, it takes 25 hours to get 1 second of video. Keep that in mind. So here's my recommendation regarding the interval. Anytime something happens really quick, take a short interval, and anytime something happens really slow, take a long interval. Building a house, making your garden, watching the clouds, I would take like 5 to 10 seconds, sunset, 5 seconds. And here is the last point, which is hyperlapse, one of my most favorite features here on this camera. So if you are in motion, you can take a hyperlapse instead of a time lapse. Let me see. The only thing I changed right here is the color mode. I set it also to 10-bit, and in this case I would actually use also the grid lines. They might be helpful because once you're in motion, you want to keep the video as steady as possible. The difference between a time lapse and a hyperlapse is that on a hyperlapse, the camera does not skip any frames in between. So it takes a normal video, but it's just accelerating the video without audio. And there's a small trick to get audio in there, but I will show you that in a second. Then you can select the resolution, you can set the frame rate, and down here is the speed. So you can either leave it in auto or set 5x. And if I just walk through the park, I would probably take 5 or 10x. If I drive from Los Angeles to New York, I would probably take 30x, because it's then accelerating the video with the 30 times the normal speed. And I will show you now how to get back the audio while recording the video. Let's say I'm gonna start the video with 5x, and I'm walking now using this camera. And as you can see right here, it's recording now for 5 seconds. And here you can see 5x. That means it's accelerating the video with 5 times the current speed. And if I tap now on 1x, you hear audio in your video. So let's say you just want to skip a huge part of your walk by accelerating the video, and then you come to a special part of the video where you would like to explain something, go back to 1x, you can tell your audience something with audio, and then you can accelerate back with the speed you have chosen before. Now let's get to real speed here, very quick. And now let's change back to 10x. So last but not least, everyone, we have to take a look at the camera and how to control it. We're in video mode, which you can see because that's a video icon right here. Top right is the battery indication, and I've done already the German tutorial and I still got battery. So this video runs already for more than an hour in total. Here the remaining recording time with these settings right here. You got a digital zoom, which doesn't increase the quality of your video, to put it in these words. And if I tap on these icons right here, you can go into the pro mode. You can set your exposure, white balance, and what I would usually do is take a higher bit rate, in this case 10-bit. If you want to use HLG, that's possible right here. And if you want to record in a log profile, you can access that using this icon right here. And log mode I would always use if I want to do color grading. If you don't have anything to do with color grading, don't shoot in a log profile. Just use normal 10-bit for a better quality. If you have connected an external microphone, you have extra settings right here for the audio meter, for instance. If I want to start a video right now, I simply push this button, and as you can see on the upper left side is now the timer. To stop that video, push that button just once again. And if you tap on this icon right here, you can set your resolution and the frame rate. If I tap on the camera icon, I can take a pre-recording, and that's possible with up to 60 seconds, but it will cost you more battery because the camera tends to be on. Then there's a loop recording, which I explained already, but we stick to video right now. And there are some other icons that we need to have a look at. So that's the image stabilizer on the left side. You can turn it off, use Rocksteady, Rocksteady Plus, or horizon balancing. If you find yourself in an aircraft and you fly steep turns and you want to keep the horizon steady, then it's time to use horizon balancing. On the right side, you can set the field of view, that standard, dewarp, wide, or extra wide for snowboarding or extreme sport activities. For me, I use usual wide or standard because you can see now all the edges are straight. To choose another resolution, you can do that right here. And if you are in low light, use a lower frame rate. If you have enough ambient light available and you want to have a more fluent video, take either 50 or 60 frames per second. And if you're not sure if you want to take at the end a slow motion video out of a normal video, take a higher frame rate with up to either 100 or 120 frames per second. And then the camera lets you record with audio. I go now to the photo mode, which is the same principle. Here on the left side is a playback button. So anytime you have already recorded something, that icon pops up. And if you tap on that, you can jump into the playback menu. Here are some bars on this side, so you can set manual exposure. You can take a RAW plus a JPEG image. If I swipe from the bottom to the top, I can use a burst mode, 9 photos in 3 seconds, or I just turn that off. If you ask me now what I would record my photos in, it would be 4:3 in RAW plus JPEG. And if you like that image look, you can find these presets for Adobe Lightroom in the video description below. Make sure to record your images in RAW. So if I go to the left side, it's only 8 megapixels, as you can see. If I take the medium format in a 16:9, 4:3, that's 9 megapixels, that's 36, and that's 40 megapixels. And here's the countdown, up to 10 seconds. And to take a photo, simply push that trigger button once, and then you hear that click, and the camera takes a photo. Anytime you record a series of shots, make sure to get a fast writing memory card. You will find my recommendation in a link provided in the video description. Let's jump to the next feature that is called tracking. That is new, and it allows you to take a tracking in 9:16. So for vertical content, 1080p 9:16, 16:9 and 2.7K, and that's usually what I would use for. So I would go for the highest resolution, 16:9, because most of my content is in landscape mode and not in portrait mode. And for a more fluent looking video, I would use either 50 or 60 frames per second. And if it's just a normal video, it would be probably 25 frames per second. And then the camera tracks you in that frame that you see around here without having the camera in someone's hand. It looks like if someone is following you. No, the camera follows you by itself. Really nice feature. Then there's a slow motion video, which I explained obviously before. And as I said, the difference between a slow motion video and a video with a higher frame rate is that in a slow motion video you get a slow motion clip out of the camera, so there's no need for post editing, but there is no audio either. And as you can see here, I can record my slow motion clips in 1080p with 8 times deceleration, or in 2.7 and 4K with 4 times deceleration. And what I would usually go for is 4K 120, so 4K 4X. And what I would do here, I would tap on the bars and select 10-bit for a better looking video. Last but not least, the hyperlapse mode. And as I said, anytime you take a hyperlapse, you are in motion with that camera. And it doesn't matter if the camera is set on a suction cap in a car, if you're holding this camera on a selfie stick, or if you just have the camera in your hand and you walk somewhere. Then it's time to take a hyperlapse. You get some settings right here. You can leave the speed to auto, or you can use 30x. And I'll show you how to get back in real time. So let's say we take a hyperlapse in 10x. I'm recording this video now, and in between I see something that I would like to show you, and I want to explain you something with audio. I can jump to 1x, and now the video runs at a normal speed. I can explain you something with audio, and if I want to continue with an accelerated video, I jump to 10x. Last but not least, the camera menu. This icon right here is for current settings, so you can stow your settings. If you're a biker and you always want to record your ridings in 4K 60, you can save that as a preset. And if you're sitting at home and you want to explain something in your garden and you use a different setting for that, you can stow your video settings right here, and you have easy access to them without changing all the settings all the time. So they either appear here then in the quick menu once pushing the power button for a second, like I do now, or you select them right here. And if you want to adjust the menu where we've just been in, you can do that right here. You can deselect some items that you might never use, for instance, hyperlapse, timelapse, or the playback function, and they won't appear in that quick menu here that you have just seen. You can disable the voice prompts if you don't want to hear them. You can adjust the brightness of your screen, saving some battery at the same time. You can lock the rotation, so if you don't want to have these icons here flipped, you can lock them. You can lock also the screen. Here is voice commands. We will have a look at this icon in a second. And here are the settings. Snapshot, highly recommended from my side. It's on, and as you can see, we will record a video once this is enabled, and I will show you now what it does. So let me turn off the camera. And the usual way to turn on the camera would be to push the power button for 2 seconds. But let's say you don't have the time to do that because something happens in front of you that you need to record. What you do is enable snapshot, push the trigger button, the camera starts immediately, and since we have selected the video mode, the camera starts to record a video instantly, and once you push that button again, it saves that video and turns off the camera. That is snapshot. So it's an easy and quick access into your last mode, video mode, hyperlapse. If you have connected a wireless microphone, you will have some settings right here. Here is voice control, so if you live in the States, you can use English to control your camera, and here are the voice commands that you can use, for instance, while wearing gloves. Always on display, I enabled that because I like that feature, because you still know that the camera is doing something and you can see that on your screen in red digits. Wireless connection, sounds, I turned them to low, time code, naming management, screen off when recording. Yeah, so the screen that you just saw with that red digit will turn on after a minute of recording. Auto power off, I selected that to 5 minutes because I don't want to have the camera turned on and off at all times. Bluetooth remote controller, if you have a Bluetooth remote, you can select it right here. You can change the language, time and date, and do a factory reset if you're selling this camera to someone else. A point that you might not see at the moment is how to format the SD card. Surprise, surprise, you have these 2 dots, swipe from the right to the left, and you can see that you have an internal storage of 47.8 gigabytes that you may use if you forget an SD card at home. Really nice. So here's my SD card in there. As you can see, that's the remaining capacity, and I can format that anytime I want to clear off all the files. Something I like so much about DJI is that we have a front screen that we can actually use. So it's not only for playback some files or to see the settings. No, you can actively change all the settings, like the resolution, the frame rate. You can enable the image stabilizer and so on such a small screen. That is super nicely done, and most manufacturers don't allow you that. Nice. So I can also change the color profile. If I have connected an external microphone, I can change the settings right here. And if you swipe from the top to the bottom, there's this icon right here, and I show you now what it does. So you can see the full screen right now. So that's what I would see on my computer at home. And if I swipe from the top to the bottom once again, then it's cropping in. I don't like that view. I always want to see what's on my final video. That's the reason why I switched that to full screen off. That is the internal microphone of the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. Now you hear the audio from the DJI Mic 2, a wireless microphone which you can connect to this camera. You can clip this microphone also to your shirt or use the DJI Lav mic, which I bought for about 40 bucks. Then you can place this in your pocket and use only this microphone here at your shirt. You can find this one also in the video description below. Keep in mind to get a fast writing memory card for this camera here. I'm recommending this one. Link is in the video description below. In order to take 4K video with up to 50, 60, 100 or 120 frames per second, and of course to use the continuous shooting mode here on this camera, because the slower the memory card is, the longer it takes for the camera to buffer your files, and you cannot do something else. So I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial about this brand new camera here. If you do have any further questions, please make sure to leave a comment below. And if you would like to actively support my channel, you can buy the camera, the memory card, the accessories I used using the link provided in the video description below. Thank you very much, see you next time, and all the best from Germany.